What happens when a woman refuses to let history, culture, or colonial power, or even sex work dictate her place in society? You get Ahebi Ugbabe. I don't know if I pronounced it well. Sorry, my people. The only female warrant chief in colonial Nigeria who rewrote the rules of gender, leadership, and power. I'm Joana, and here is an intriguing African untold story. Today, we'll see another angle of sex work that you probably did not know. Something that happened long ago. First things first. Who is Ahebi Ugbabe? Ahebi Ugbabe was born in Enugu Ezike, an Igbo community in the late 19th century, to Ugbabe Ahebi, a farmer and a palm wine tapper, and to Aneku Ame, a farmer and trader in Umuida, Enugu Ezike. Hey, Igbo people save me. She had two brothers and no sisters. She lived with her mother's family in Nadu for a brief period before returning to Umuida. After her return, she didn't stay long before she ran away again. But what was chasing her? Ahebi was running from an order for her to be married to a female deity as punishment for her father's sins. This punishment was known as Igoma Ogo, to become the in-law of a deity. So, Igbo people that know this history, please expand on this history. Drop a comment below. So, there are so many questions. Why did she have to marry a deity? What's more interesting though is she had to marry a female deity. Where was she running to? Was this a normal thing in her society, in their place, to marry a deity? All these answers, please drop it. And what was her father's sin anyway? Mind you, her father had gone through a series of unfortunate events when she was around 13, 14. The farm yields were little. Illness spread. Trading was slow. So her father went to a diviner, someone who was perceived as possessing knowledge of the unknown. The man now had correlated the events to the wrath of the goddess or due to his crime. So all things that were happening to the father was like a karma as a result of something he has done in the past. But we don't even know what he has done. Ahebi became a commercial sex worker. She didn't stop there. She used this form of work to her own advantage to advance herself and align herself with powerful rulers like the ruler of Ghana and then the British colonial officers. Along her travels, Ahebi learned to speak numerous languages, including Igala, Nupe, and Pidgin English. She had to become multilingual now. Her success and independence helped to redefine sex work from servitude to a voluntary profession. So now, sex work was no longer compulsory. You know, you could actually wake up one day and become a sex worker. Ahebi helped redefine that. While you might argue that sex work, you have your moral judgment about that, that one is not the story of today. Ahebi, her own sex work, she used it to take herself to places. Her sex work and the linguistic skill that she gathered gave her access to Ada Igala, that's the king, and then the British divisional officers, who not only facilitated her return to Enugu Ezike, but they also supported her to now claim office of the headsman, warrant chief, and later is the king. Ahebi's reign began a few months after she returned to Igbo land from exile. In the early 20th century, it was the British rule in Igbo land, and Ahebi used this to benefit herself by leading the British forces into Enugu Ezike, her own hometown. This is the part that worries me. Anyway, you want to know another interesting fact about her? She was the only person in the entire village now that could relate properly to her British people that she brought. She could speak English, Pidgin English. So as a reward of her support of bringing the British invaders to her village, she was installed village headman, kind of indirect rule. So she replaced the aged headman, who the British thought they didn't need him again. They needed someone that could speak Pidgin English. And who was that? Ahebi. Obviously, this was where she began to gather enemies. Due to her efficiency and continued loyalty to the British rule, she was elevated to the post of the warrant chief. This was actually contrary to the British policy, which excluded women from political participation in colonial Nigeria. And so one must wonder, what was she doing? It was not just because she could speak English or they picked her. No, she was intelligent, so intelligent that she had this quiet disposition. And when she spoke, it was usually straight to the point and sensible. Ahebi Ugbabe became king of Enugu Ezike with the aid of the Ata, ruler of Igala, whose power spread to the northern Igbo territories, upsetting the gendered politics in her culture. She performed female masculinities as ruler, and she surpassed all male political hierarchy and authority. Although Ahebi commanded the respect of her people, she also sowed seeds of resentment by conscripting forced labor and imposing a census and a British tax law. Igbo culture did not really allow humans to be counted. It was like she was drunk of power, but that's what people say, that they didn't allow people to be counted, or like children to be counted, livestock to be counted. I don't know if this is really true, because they believe that it will attract evil and even death. I don't know if this is true. Drop your comments beneath if you know more about this. This census caused a woman's war. You remember the Aba women's riot, the women's war in southern Igbo land. They said also that counting people will now mean that the government knows the number, and that will now lead to imposing tax. And once they impose tax, what is going to come next? So what did Ahebi do first? Ahebi, she easily quelled whatever resistance existed in her kingship because of her British backing, and any sort of opposition will never go unpunished. Ahebi amassed wealth and power, but ultimately fell from grace when the extent of her multiple transgression became even too much for her community. She overreached in her ambition and violated tradition, even further by attending the spiritual masquerade ritual of wearing her own mask. Mind you, these rituals were only for men. The male elders and Ahebi, they went to court. She was disappointed because the British did not side her. They sided the male elders, undermining Ahebi's rule. Ahebi Ugbabe cultivated an aura of mysticism to solidify her image as an all-powerful ruler. She used like pre-colonial traditions to push this mysticism and therefore power. She also used this to augment her gender to effectively make herself king. Another interesting thing that Ahebi did to assert herself as a man was that she collected multiple wives, many of whom were runaways from abusive husbands. So she wasn't just a tyrant. She did some things like, to support the women there. She collected and helped many women, and they too, they helped her in the sense of bearing children for her that will carry her name, Ahebi's name. But she died now. Everybody must die. So Ahebi died in 1948. Although she was a woman, she was buried according to the customs of burying men. If you're still awestruck about this woman, Ahebi, wait now, it's going to twist. I'm going to explain how she was buried. Before Ahebi died, she performed her own burial rites. She did not trust her society that they would give her the befitting burial. So she performed the rites in such a magnificent manner that her society will never forget that an incredible being such as herself lived. At this juncture, let me know what you think about Ahebi. Is she a radical, controversial narcissist or misunderstood, courageous woman who turned patriarchal violence to her favor? Oh wait, it's not just black and white. Is she a fierce woman with many flaws? Her living funeral included gunfire, animal sacrifice, and music of remembrance. This woman was so ambitious. She did not settle for mediocrity, and she outdid herself every time. Even in death, Ahebi refused to be forgotten. Her story didn't end with burial. Instead, it transformed. The same community that once rejected her now started praising her, writing songs. Tales were told about her. Even children grew up hearing, did you know we once had a woman king? Ahebi's life became a legend, a mix of fear and awe and admiration. She became both warning and wonder, a woman who dared to hold power in a world built for men. Her life's impact is described by Awando Achebe, that's the daughter of Chinua Achebe. Things fall apart and the center cannot hold. She said she was a slave, married to a deity, a runaway, a sex worker, a head man, a warrant chief, an ultimate female king. She was a strong leader of the people, yet a collaborator empowered by the British colonial regime in Nigeria. Anyway, regardless of the fears of not being properly commemorated, she's worshipped today as a goddess in her hometown and is mentioned in numerous Enugu Ezike songs, tales, and parables. That was another Africa's Untold Story. I am Joadre.